Leyton Orient 3, Reading Football Club 1. A scoreline and performance that puts a decent festive run well and truly to bed. The rest of January will be key on and off the pitch as the Royals look to establish themselves in mid-table or better, whilst bolstering the squad off the pitch. Joining me this evening, as always,
boistering my way in.
Webber, boistering his way.
It's Ross
lime
Webber.
green. Lime
green. There's 2 greens today. I want to point out viewers of the YouTube channel, which there have been many of you in the last week. Thank you very much. But viewers will know that there's always shirts on my wall behind me. And this is my Christmas gift to myself this year. For green, there's a Samuel Eto'o Germany 2006 kit up there. So it will never touch my body. I don't want to wear it. I want it to sit on that wall right there.
Is that the skin tight one they had? I mean, they were all pretty skin tight. Puma went for a stage of doing like things that you couldn't breathe in.
I don't know. I mean, it would be skin tight on me, let's be honest. But the kit that I always remember with Cameroon, and I wish there was a Reading version of this too, was the sleeveless one that they weren't allowed to wear in competition. But I always think that was such a brilliant kit, and yeah, it would be fun if Reading just showed up to like the EFL Trophy one day, wearing sleeveless tops. It's like, what, September, like it's piddling competition, isn't it? Who cares? Yeah.
Well, we care a lot about this football club, believe it or not. I'm just trying to work out what episode we're on. What episode is it? 400.
I thought you were about to say I'm just trying to work out why. But anyway, it's episode 447, I believe.
It's 447.
Yeah, it's where we're at.
For those number fans out there, big thank you to the Amazons for their lending of their track "My Blood." I haven't heard anything from them for a little while. They're obviously resting, aren't they?
I was going to say they've
doing what bears do, hibernating in the winter.
Do you know? I learned. Everyone will know this by now, but bears don't actually fully go to sleep for 3 or 4 months of the year. Hibernating is they just slow down and stuff like that. They don't actually get in a tree, put on a little nightcap, and go down.
You would probably be the only person who thought that.
Well, you see some things in Maine where the bears live, so.
Yeah. What do you know? What, talking of bears, I went to the NBA last night. Not trying to drop my social
very
nice.
Very nice.
In London, first time they've done it in 7 years, I think. And I, as you know, I love basketball. I absolutely love basketball. It was really good. It was good. The game wasn't great, but the whole vibe was decent.
Yeah. Basketball is very fun culturally.
Yeah, it's great to watch. It's ridiculous because I was sat there thinking, how many Grizzlies do you see in Memphis?
Not many.
It just doesn't happen, does it?
Yeah,
it's like Lions in Berkshire. It's not happening. So
yeah, good point. Actually, yeah, good point.
Thank you to ZT Films as well, who continue to sponsor us. We very much appreciate all the things they do for us, spiritually, emotionally, financially, morally,
artistically.
I ran out of leads, but thanks to them.
Thank you also to the YouTube viewers from the last week. It's been a good week on YouTube.
He smashed it. Well,
we've been having some fun, dropping some little bits and bobs online, so you can see kind of a pod light. I came up with that title in about 1.5 seconds while I was typing out the description. You can check that out for some extra thoughts on Will Keane and some of the transfers last week, and then also an update with Peter Matthews on the women's team, who,
really
shout out before we get started, the women's team beat Wickham this weekend, which is fantastic. Wickham had just completed a year undefeated, so really puts Reading's women back in the hunt for the top 3 spots and for promotion. So really good to see. And if you want to know more, check out the video of Peter, because he's great. He knows a lot.
Oh, Pete's amazing. Pete's kept us going. I think he is one of the stalwarts of TTE for sure. He goes very much under the radar, but he's a lovely man. He's often seen walking around Tilehurst. In fact, that's kind of the only time we ever bump into him, really, when he's walking around Tilehurst. But he's a great guy. And his wife, Alison. I think it's Alison. Fantastic.
She's basically the official Reading women's photographer at this point.
She is.
So thank you to Alison for those photos, which we did use on the thumbnail, I think, one of them, for the most recent video. Anyway, check those out. Let's get started with the game, shall we?
Yeah, let's talk about a loss. Right. Just really, really irritated with this, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. This is not how I wanted the recap to go, but we are where we are. Really, really good set of, I'm going to say results, not performances over the festive period, as I think we said last time out on the proper pod. And just to confirm, what we did on YouTube was not really a pod. It wasn't a pod. Didn't have a number. We just got.
You saw the
We
pod that
had
said
things to
Pod
say.
Light, and it
Pod
did
light.
Light
Yeah, there you go.
Lite. Yeah, like it's
Yeah.
a tech product.
And we had stuff to say, so we thought we'd just jump on YouTube, and we are trying to push that quite a lot now in terms of what we do. And Ross is going to knock out some stuff. Got a few other contributors that are going to do bits and bobs on YouTube, but we are really starting to ramp the content on there. Anyway, so we had a chat. We were quite optimistic going into the weekend. We recorded that on Friday, and then they served up a really bad performance, which wasn't completely out of the blue, given they've just had 2 weeks off and we never come back well from breaks. But this felt a little bit, Ross, like this performance was coming, given how we did play over the Christmas period and kind of managed to grind out and pick up results without playing hugely well. For some of those players, individuals particularly, it was a complete disaster. What don't say because they scored 3 goals and they had a striker who could score 3 goals, but what went wrong for us on the day?
I think you definitely can't say, because they had a striker who can score 3 goals, because we also had a striker on the pitch who could score, the chances that fell to Ballard today. And actually, let's just stop and say Ballard played really well in this game. And I thought his first goal in particular was just super, super high quality. Just fantastic.
A perfect hat trick, wasn't it, for him?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, left foot, right foot, and a header, and he had the ball in the net 2 other times as well, and disallowed for offside. Where one of them very close as well with the offside. So yeah, he was just a danger throughout the game. But one thing I thought kind of made it easier for him, and I think we'll touch on this as the episode goes on. Yiadom took a yellow card, coming back towards the play in the 6th minute of this game. Yiadom is a man who doesn't mind a professional foul. I think that it's something that he's done successfully in successful times in his Reading career and done it pretty well. He's also really good at winning silly piddling little fouls all over the place. So he's just kind of good at that thing. But I think this season, if there was one criticism I had to give since he's come back into the team and been, relatively good in a good run for Reading, is that he takes those yellows just a little bit too cheaply now. And it affects him for the rest of the game, especially if it happens early on. And I think a lot of that's because, in the way that we set up now with that 3-2, and Dorset is going to be your elbow back, so Yiadom is moving further up the field. Yiadom is doing more of his defending and coming back, running back towards his own net, and maybe, in this case, Leyton Orient had the ball already running towards our net. You've got to try and step across the player. It's not that hard to concede a foul that, maybe the referee's just going to give a yellow for, just to put his stamp on the game as well, because referees do that. But I just think that, now Yiadom used to do it a lot. He had, but looking at 2 years ago when he had a lot of starts, the last time he had a lot of starts, he had 7 in 26. So it wasn't like loads and loads, like a little more than 1 every 4. He's had 6 starts this year and he has 5 yellow cards in those starts. So he's basically almost good for a yellow card every time he starts now. And if that comes early, it just really affects how aggressive we can be, with our defending, especially 1v1. And so I don't think it's any surprise that, the goal, Ballard's second goal came from that side, whereby Yiadom wasn't able to get close enough to try and cut out that cross. And I saw Savage having to come across, several times to try and help out, cut out things on that side, to be aggressive, to have someone who could be physically aggressive. So I think that was that was one of the issues during this game, is that we couldn't really be as aggressive as we wanted to defensively. Do you want to pause on Yiadom? You got anything to say on Yiadom, or I can kind of continue explaining what I thought went wrong in this game?
I was really disappointed with both fullbacks. I think when you look at the third goal,
fair
in particular, I think I said it in a post-match video, but for me it summed up the whole performance. Completely out-fought, completely out-muscled.
It was a shambles. A lot of that goal. A lot of that was a shambles. That goal.
Yeah, it was.
I
It's
thought.
wrong to say there's no desire to get to the ball because I don't see that. But why you'd let him run on the inside of you when at 2-1, there's probably a little bit of a slim chance you could get back in the game. It was just horrible to watch back. Like, he's just been absolutely bullied out of the ball, really, and take nothing away from the finish. But
And there was one more towards the end of the game, by the way, where Paudie O'Connor missed one coming back over.
Yeah, well, I thought defensively they were all poor. I don't think Pereira had a good game, really. I thought he looked quite shaky. I thought, Finley Burns has been one of the, I would say, more consistent performers in recent weeks, particularly under Richardson as he's come in. But they all just looked like they didn't know each other. And I think the concerning thing about it is that they have had time to be able to work on it. It just looked really stale.
They
really
have had time to work on it,
times.
but I will say, like, I think all of the goals came down the same channel, basically, inside this channel that I think Yiadom just couldn't be aggressive in because he already had that booking. And for that third goal, I mean, like, we're all over the place in terms of the shape. Like, Fraser is one of the guys who goes close to try and make the first challenge, I think, maybe, or I don't even know. Fraser and Paudie O'Connor are kind of all over the place in terms of their positioning there, and it's just very easy. There's like about 3 runners in the ball that goes forward for that third goal who could possibly get on the end of it and continue to progress the attack for Leyton Orient. And I think that, like you're saying, there has been time. We've seen Charlie Savage play in the 10 position recently, so kind of like slap bang in the middle of that, when you got that 4-2-3-1 right in that 3. In this game, he was kind of shunted into the sort of right wing position as Reading tried to, do that box midfield thing they do and bring one of the midfielders inside. But just putting him up on the right side, where he had to be one of the first guys confronting the opponent in the press. He just pulled Reading all out of shape all over again. And he'd been, covering the fullback for a lot of the game, and then he's like told to go on up and instead cover, the wing back instead. It's just very, very, or Leighton's wing back, and it's just very, very odd. I thought, like, a lot of people in places that they haven't necessarily succeeded in before.
Did you just call him Leyton, by the way?
I did call him Leyton, and I
Just
know.
Orient.
I know. I don't know why I keep doing that. They were referring to it on the broadcast as Leyton as well, and they were referring to the area of Leyton, which was a lot.
But the team aren't called Leyton. It's either the O's or Orient or Leyton Orient. If you can't be bothered to.
This is very true. You are correct about the fullbacks, and I want to touch on that again later. There was one other person I thought was very poor and was forced into being very poor in this game. I don't know if you can guess who I thought that was. I thought Lewis Wing was very poor in this game, and I think he's had a good. Christmas period. The more I think about Lewis Wing, the more he reminds me of Bruno Fernandes. More and more.
I think he had an okay Christmas period, given that he did chip in with a couple of goals. Was I impressed with him? No, not really. Like, I think there've been a lot of games this season where I've looked at and gone, what's the contribution, and overall I found it really, really frustrating to watch. I thought there were flashes of Doyle that we'd not seen. That the pass for Marriott's goal was very, very good, but I think it probably took until around the 29th minute when I thought, actually, we're starting to play a little bit, and we kind of calmed down. And looking back at the highlights today in hindsight, that's because Leyton Orient took their feet off the gas a little bit and let us play rather than us in asserting any kind of forcefulness on them. Really, I just found the whole thing really frustrating, especially when I got it back to 1-1. And you thought, actually, we could get a draw out of this. And a lot of people said before the game we'd learn a lot about Liam's team and the setup and everything else from this game, given that we had that good results period over the festive, the festive games, and then we had the 2-week break, and they came back with that, and it just looked flat. And I think he said in the post match comments that we were out 4, and that's a worry. I think that, for me, that's a real worry. I think that's an interest. So he may be right. Like, we were out 4 in some places. Like, I thought that a few of the players didn't have good physical games. Like I've already mentioned Yiadom, but I think that, and I've said this before about Liam since he's come in. I think he was out coached again, and I think he was out coached by Richie Wellens, who
came into the game with a game plan that gave Reading a lot of trouble. And then after that short period where Reading kind of worked things out, and were able to start, like pushing higher up the pitch and starting to get some chances, he tweaked it again and immediately put that to bed, basically. So came into this game with a 5-3-2. And that was really giving Reading quite a lot of issues, because he was basically matching up our build up like man for man and being very, very aggressive with it. So Reading had most of the possession in this game, but the formation line was in Reading's half, like the average formation line, right? So even though Reading had more of the ball, more of the game was being played in Reading's half, because Leyton Orient were forcing them back and back and back. And when I was doing my rewatch, one of the main things I was noticing that they were really trying to force Wing into making some awful long balls. So there's been some complaints I've seen in the fan base that Liam is still playing long ball football. I think it's kind of average League One long ballness. It was a 16% long ball rate for both teams.
It's a little bit too easy to say he's doing that. I mean, yeah, there were long balls, and it is pretty mindless when you do that when Jack Marritt's about 3'10". But as I've always said, the support needs to come from those further forward midfield players and the wingers, and you just don't see that. Like I said, the link up there was a little bit of link up there with Kamari Doyle. We did try a few things, but no one really stood out in the game. And no. I don't know. I mean, I guess the final question to wrap this up is: Are we overreacting to this loss? Like, is it really a big deal, or is it actually you would expect them now to kick on and really kind of cement themselves in that mid to top part of the table at this stage of the season, and they don't look like doing that?
I think it's an informative loss. Like I was watching the AFCON final, which was wild.
It's crazy, wasn't it? It was absolutely
crazy.
Is that actually an organised football match happening in 2026?
But
they're arguing about a towel, are they?
No, it was pretty wild, yeah. But one of the commentators was saying, and I don't think anyone on either team was really living up to this at this point, but he was saying that he used to have a coach who said you win or you learn, right? And so like I feel we learn. It's cheesy, I love it. I don't care. I like it. But the thing that we learned in this, like, again, for me, I think that I do have some concerns that Liam can be outcoached by a decent tactical manager, like a guy who's really got that stuff down. Like, I think that Liam is good at that stuff enough to set up a team pretty well, and he can make adjustments, but I don't think that he always gets those adjustments right. But again, like, he shows like a higher level of understanding of modern football than Noel Hunt. But I think that Richie Wellens just, again, like once we had scored our goal, he moved them into like this sort of 5-4-1. It basically, the whole game, they found a way to pin back our wing backs, and that meant that we just didn't have really much committed press, and we couldn't get through. And I think that Liam was very hesitant to kind of commit an extra player forward or onto the wide spaces to try and like kind of get a better matchup there. And I think that's partially because Dorset can't really push up into that. He is now just so solidly that elbow back, that player who plays as a centre back in possession rather than as a left back. And I think that was the other thing I learned from this game is, okay, the fullback stuff needs to be solved, or at least partially, in January, because we basically don't really have, I mean, maybe Paddy Lane will come back and be able to do it, but we don't really have, outside of Chirwa, a player who can play on the wide left right now, somehow, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, even if like we took Yedom out of the team and we wanted a different like fullback going higher up the field, we'd have a Brafer who is on the same side of the field anyway. So yeah, I think the fullback issue really needs solving, and we sent Matty Jacob back. That's all fine. I think could see that Liam didn't want to play him, but yeah, we need to replace him with somebody who can fit into Liam's system, even if that is just a loan until the summer.
I mean, obviously, Will King came on, which is positive because we only joined the club in a week, so any sort of minutes he's getting now is a good thing. I mean, it's difficult really to rate him, but did you see anything in there that you thought actually that could help us long term, or was that a little bit too early to judge?
I mean, I don't think that like he had any moment in this game that was like, oh my word, like incredible. Like he had one touch in the box, so yeah. Like, I mean, like there wasn't a whole lot going on. And again, I just think that like Reading's game plan wasn't sufficient to deal with what Leyton Orient were doing. So like, I mean, he was playing right down the middle. Leyton Orient basically said, we'll just commit our main central centre back to deal with the striker, and then we're going to play a lot of the game out in the wide spaces. So ball didn't come near Will Keane that often, to be honest. But I wrote down that I actually think that he is a really good signing, because I touched on this. Jack Marriott is running the absolute hottest of anyone in League One against his XG right now. In terms of like his XG per game, like his goal output is more than double that XG per game. It's ridiculous. So he's not going to continue that hot. Like I think that he is good. I think that he is a good League One striker. Don't get me wrong. Like I think Jack Marriott, if you had him fit for the whole year, would probably score 20 goals in League One. But at the same time, like he's not always gonna like bang them in from outside of the box like perfect. Some of the finishes he's hit this season are perfect, like just absolute perfect, like curling away from the goalkeeper and then coming back into the net on the far side or into the side netting or something. He's not gonna run that hot forever, and so I think that having Will Keane, like we said on the pod light, it's just a positive move in terms of getting rid of Marco Mane, unfortunately, and then bring in a player who has scored goals consistently in League One.
I mean, he's all but confirmed gone, isn't he, Marco Mane? I think there was some news article in inverted commas where he deleted all of his Reading photos off his Instagram. Like,
was that a news article, or was it just a tweet that someone has like?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, hey, I generated like a Newsweek article. Yeah. Or something.
They haven't. The club haven't announced it, but I think we knew that was coming. It's not worked out really at all.
And
I think this speaks to a wider issue with the recruitment, which we're going to talk about sort of in the mailbag in a bit. Final word on Leyton Orient then, Ross?
I mean, I do think that, like, I mean, okay, so you asked me if we were overreacting at all, and I want to say, like, a little bit, because, like, I do think that, like, when you come back from those 2 weeks off, you're always just a little bit off it compared to where the other team might be. But like, I don't know, it's still frustrating, isn't it? When that
it's
happens.
Really frustrating. I think that's the key word. It's really, really frustrating given the points that we did pick up, and it's like, well, you got an opportunity to really kick on, and had we got a point, the mood is different. We go into Saturday in really good spirits, and it just feels sometimes like 2 steps forward and 3 steps back.
We go into Louisiana Day with a positive mindset if we get those 3 points.
We'll talk about that in a preview as well. I've got a few things to say about Louisiana Day, I'll tell you.
Spicy Cajun things to say about that.
Well, yeah, 100%. Buckle up. There's all. No, I'm joking. But I have got things to say. Let's go to the mailbag then, because there's a few little quite interesting points in there. Given a weekend's loss and where we are in January in the month anyway. So we'll do that after this short interval. Right. Oh, my phone's just
not used to intervals. Normally we're taking breaks. What do I do in an interval?
No. Well, I just thought, why not? Let's just.
What do I do with my hands my hands haven't returned from the interval position yet. Can I stop now?
You're selling ice creams in intervals. That's kind of
with a little that would be great. I hope there's someone who does that after the review or whatever we call that part. They sit down with a little bit of ice cream and then they listen to the mailbag.
Maybe they do. Yeah, let us know what snacks you have in between, or what snacks you have.
Actually, yeah. If
you're listening or watching the pod.
Yes, TTE pod snacks. Are there any? Let us know, because like a lot of people watch like I said, we're trying to aggressively hit YouTube, and a lot of people use YouTube as what to do when they're eating lunch. So if you're eating lunch, tell us what lunch.
I love that aggressively. We've gently asked people to watch us and subscribe.
Yeah, aggressively.
Aggressive.
We're gently aggressive.
We're gently aggressive. Right, where should we start? Mark, do we actually have see where this is going? Do we actually have a scouting team, or are we just relying on AI and anyone at the club who happens to know a player?
Well, as you
You
know,
get
the
his point.
AI is both
You
running
get
the
his point.
security and doing the player picking.
Yeah.
So that's going well for us.
We
It is a
don't
little
seem to
bit.
look at we
Go
don't
ahead.
seem to look at non-league or League Two to unearth gems.
Hmm.
Posh are experts at this, and we fail miserably. Um, yeah, I mean, it depends what your success barometers are, really, isn't it? I think it's a good point about scouting team.
I think so too, because like I noted that Will Keane is another. I think he's another ex Liam Richardson player, isn't he? So
He
he's
is,
another one that is
yeah.
coming in the club. Yeah, I guess someone at the club knows about already. And Marco Mani is the player who's gone the other direction, who seemingly came in because he's somebody at the club at that time knew,
It's a little
basically.
bit like Harry Redknapp, where everywhere he went, he had to get Peter Crouch and Nico Crancher
Well,
in.
and even more worrying.
Terrific player, Crouchy.
Terrific player, terrific. And do you say Nico Crancher? I'm sorry, I spoke
Yeah,
over you.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, excellent. It's a little bit Kia Jarabchian.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean,
Sorry, I
you
wanted to
said you
just
were
shut
never
up
going
and
to
let
speak
that
that
sit.
name again, but
Yeah,
you're right. You're right.
it's not really what I would love to see. Like I think we've spoken about before. Like the scouting for me needs to be more Daniel Chihuahua and less Marco Mani. More, like going and looking for those players. Like I think Finley Burns a pretty decent pickup too. Like I think that if you're looking for a center back from like a top level academy that you're thinking maybe give him like a year's experience, you've still got to get that
Mm.
decision right, or you could end up with someone who is pretty useless after a few weeks. Like I remember, it was it 2 years ago, Arsenal sent us one of their youth centre backs, and he appeared in approximately 7 minutes, conceded a penalty, and was never ever seen in a Reading shirt again. So I mean, like you have to still get it right. You have to still pick a player who is actually going to be able to make a difference. And I think that picking up Finley Burns was also a good pickup. And then whatever happened to make sure that he didn't end up going back to Man City. That was also good recruitment. But yeah, I mean, like you and I have cast some doubt on the recruitment this summer before on this podcast. I think that Jack Marriott is making it look better than it did, better than it could, I should say. But I really like Jack Merritt, but as I've said before, he's running super hot on his numbers, and I don't think that this is going to be the form that he's going to be in a year's time.
Mm.
I think that Jack Merritt is the kind of player that you would bring in if you want to like win now and you want to win the league right away, kind of, because like you're buying a player who has scored goals in League One before, has come from a team that has just gone up, so that is what you're trying to emulate as well. But yeah, I think I just like it doesn't necessarily feel like there's a project building yet, and maybe that's what maybe after 2 windows with Liam that will change. But obviously he needs to get like the pieces in that are going to help him get to that second window, and I think the fullbacks are very very obvious now, and he's known right since the end of November that Maddie Jacob is not going to be sticking around. So that was for something where I would have hoped that the scouting team would have gone into overdrive, looking for a fullback to be able to come in within the first couple of weeks of January, to really kind of help things out. So yeah.
The gentleman you're referring to, the Arsenal player, Zayn Louis.
Thank you. Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
the other point you raised about the left back is the same as how I felt about the striker situation
Yeah.
when Sam Smith left. Um,
You've known about it for a long time. Like there should
exactly, it's
be
not a
stuff
secret.
going
It's
on.
out there,
Yeah.
and I stand by the fact that the core of our existing team from last season is all right, and I think overall has, as a group, have underperformed for a number of different reasons this season. But my concern overall, and we said this time and again with the recruitment, is it's very scattergun. There doesn't seem to be that, particularly in the summer, there didn't seem to be Noel Hunt's a manager, and we want to assemble a team for him to work with under
Right.
his kind of philosophy, whatever that was. It just seemed to be, I know this guy, let's get him in. God knows what's happened to Brian Carey, who seemingly was running the show for a long period of time. I've said it time and again, regardless of what people think about, Mark Bowen. I thought he was absolutely fantastic recruitment-wise. You look at the players that he brought in over a period of time under very, very tight to non-existent financial commitments, unreal in terms of recruitment. So, my thing here is, what is the philosophy that Joe Jacobson is wanting to bring into the club in terms of the style of players? What is the purpose of bringing in Will Keane on loan if he's that good and we've got potential money to do it, which we clearly there is a little bit of money knocking around. Why not just get him as a permanent signing? Why is he a loan signing? And then further around in the pitch, there are specific issues with the players that they brought in already. I don't think Paudie's been great. He was injured to start with. It's unfortunate it happens. Don't think he's been fantastic at all this season. I don't really understand why Jacob was brought in. I don't really understand why Amani was brought in. They've completely flopped. They've gone back. This isn't just a kind of they're not good players or they don't fit the system. This, for me, is an indicator of the level of recruitment of where these people are, in terms of what their philosophy wants to be for Reading Football Club moving forward. And that leads in really quite nicely to the next question from Chris. Welcome back, mate. Alarming that the club have allowed us to go another 20 days without a recognised left-back, don't you think? Even Jacob wasn't an out-and-out left-back. Priority C-Mod. The lack of pace defensively was a wake-up call on Saturday and needs rectifying.
Yeah, I do think the left side, again, I think the left-sided fullback is something that we've known about for a very long time, and I do wish that we'd already, been looking to take care of, and the club would probably come back and say, there's no one available, which is not something that I think is the case personally, but in any case, I don't really think I've seen that many links or anything, even with left backs, which would suggest that that the recruitment team is at least inquiring about players and things like that. It is a little bit frustrating right now, and I think that this is kind of something we've talked about before. This was a big job to kind of rebuild Reading after the mess that has been there, and there was enough going on in the summer that we felt good about the spine of the team, like you said, and that I felt good enough about the spine of the team to really think that they could push on this season. But that kind of came with a caveat that if they got the recruitment right, and as we can see, it just hasn't really worked out. It does concern me. Like I said, it being a huge thing to rebuild, putting a guy like Joe Jacobson in, who by all accounts is an incredibly nice guy, very successful guy as a player, means a lot to Wycombe Football Club. But this squad needed, I don't think it needed a full rebuild. I think it needed a proper complementing with these right kinds of players. And there have been some very obvious holes and flaws that have only been solved through leaning on the manager's connections. And that's a real concern. We're seeing all over club football now, front offices and things like that push back against managers who are trying to take too much control over transfers. And there will be some people who would make the valid point that that's how football used to be run. Managers can still have success. Guys that are managing the roster and the first team coaching sessions, that can still work. But I just think that a head coach has to do a lot more in football than they had to do in the 90s. There's a lot more going on in a game that they have to manage. And if you're asking them to manage the transfers as well, I think it's quite a lot in terms of capacity. And then also, a manager is always going to have short-term they're always going to have the short term higher in their estimations than the long term, because they want to keep their job. They want to keep their kid in the same school. They want to keep their wife happy. They want their family life to stay the same for as long as possible. Yeah. And, it's a tough job, football. You have to move around the country. So they're always going to do things like, let's just bring Will Keane in on a loan because he'll definitely help us improve for a little bit, and that'll make me keep my job. And then I can revisit in the summer. And that may be the right thing to do, because, there isn't always somebody available who's going to change your team completely in January. I think about Man City buying Marmouche last January, and he's now nowhere near that squad. So January transfers go wrong all the time. So I don't necessarily mind doing things where it's take a loan and see where we are in the summer. It's the going in for the manager's stuff over and over again.
But also, we talk about philosophy, but what is the goal for this team? Like what I'm not expecting someone's going, here's our action plan, we want to be at playoffs or whatever. But like, what's the direction? So I keep going back to it, but Jason Roberts, very, very clear that they needed something extra up front, right? Want to get automatic promotion. So he comes in, propels us to that. Obviously the players we had around him were fantastic as well. Lafondra, Kebe hit a nice run of form. There were other players involved.
I think that Jason Roberts is successful. Sorry, Ben, real quick, because I think Jason Roberts is successful because you had Joby McAnuff and Jimmy Kebe who could hit the byline and supply crosses.
Yeah, but there was a method to that, right? We need a striker. We need someone who's going to be able to finish this great delivery. Get Jason Roberts in. Great.
Right.
I could do a series of podcasts on Jason Roberts. I really could. But what I'm saying here is, great. You need a striker. In my opinion, you probably need two. So you've gone and got Will Keane on loan. Really, I think we need another one, quite frankly. And we need two fullbacks, right and left, because, as Chris said, really caught out on Saturday. I think we probably need another centre-back. Obviously there's Ricardo Santos, but he's failed a medical. So straight away I'd be walking away from that. No thanks. Yep. Like, we are where we are. We've got injury problems around. We don't want another player who's going to struggle to get through the season when the games come real thick and fast in sort of March, April time towards the end. So what's the plan? Like, if the plan is just to go, we want to stay in League One this season and just see how everything goes, just say that. I know people go, it's lack of ambition, but just be realistic. And without going off on a tangent, if one more person in the ownership turns around and tells a fan base to be patient, I genuinely might jump in the Thames. And
I think the problem
do.
But the problem is there's not a line, isn't it? Like, the half of the ownership will say be patient, and then half of it will say I'm excited for the new signings, and like I'm really excited for this to happen. I'm like,
but how much more patient can a fan base be?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough.
It's not just this season. You're talking about years of patience.
Yeah, but I don't think you can blame them for the previous years. I think they're inheriting.
No, but you can blame them for being misguided when they're saying be patient.
Yeah, well, yeah. You can point out it's like not the best thing to say to a fan base that have had to already be patient for a very long time. I think that, myself included, like, some of us got carried away with how this season could go, and that now we had
you did
sort of, I said like me.
You got carried away in a season preview.
Yeah, remember those heady days of August or whatever? I'm looking. I shoveled another freaking 6 inches of snow today. Like, August seems like
another 6, is it?
A dream. Another 6, is it? Yeah. So, but anyway, yeah. I just think, again, like, the thing that I would have done personally is I would have taken a guy who had already, in terms of like a director of football or something like that, who had already proven that he could build a squad, and I would put him in charge of getting Reading, going again at the moment. I just wouldn't have given it to somebody who's in their first job, in football in Joe Jacobson. And again, I feel really bad saying that, but I don't think this was a recruitment era, and I don't think this was a time to put your most important position in the hands of a rookie.
I'm not going to write him off just yet, because I think there's still more to come. But I guess what we're going off really is that absolute car crash interview that he did with Noel Hunt. That was just, it was just so awkward. Looking back on it now, you just think, good God, what is this?
I think members of the media team have taken responsibility for that one, though, haven't they? Rather than that,
they have. But it was just really like. It just smelt like the beginning of the end at that point. And I think when you've got that to go off, and effectively, 2 players that were brought in the summer that have failed at this club, that's not a good track record currently. That's when you're looking at performance reviews, if you're in, an office or whatever, and you go, have you met your KPIs? Or don't think
I've been sick on my shoes.
Yeah, exactly. I make my lunch every day. That's kind of what it feels like a little bit in terms of, do we need to do something different here? So it is tricky, and it is frustrating, and I think there is a little bit at the moment a disconnect of what of where the fan base is currently at and what is being presented from the club's point of view. And I'll talk a little bit about Louisiana Day sort of in the preview, whatever the hell it is we do at the end of the pod. But it just, the recruitment is a bit of a concern at the moment. And Bobbins goes on to say, here's a bit of an existential question. Good word choice, mate. Well done. Do we, as a recovering fan base, suffer from getting too down after defeats?
I do think that when we lose away, we have a tendency to think it's we're back to never being able to win away and all that kind of stuff again. Whereas we just spanked Plymouth like not that long ago away from home, so we're perfectly capable of beating teams away now. And I know that you'll say to me, "Oh, but we had that bad period in that game," which yes, we did, but we also had a period in which Plymouth, yes, pooped themselves a little bit. But we very ruthlessly, kept forcing their head into the toilet, as it were. That's a horrible analogy. I'm sorry. That's awful.
Don't air your dirty laundry in public, mate. What happened to you in high school is really, it's you and your whatever to talk about.
I'll see myself out.
Yeah, exactly. My thing is the level of performance, right? So this, my main reason for wanting Noel to be removed was because there was no progression, there was no green shoots in the performances at all. And my concern is that the performance that was served up on Saturday, and it's a results business and everyone knows that and blah blah blah, and you could go through the season playing really awfully and win every game 1-0 or 2-1 or whatever, but the performance on Saturday was a real concern because there didn't seem to be that cohesion and that drive. And, as I said time and again, the third goal was just embarrassing. It really was really quite awkward to watch. So when you're in a situation where, you lose away, fine. It happens. It's football, happens a lot. But it's the performance level. We were never really in the game at 1-1. On a scoreline point of view, we were, but kind of style and quality, even miles apart from each other.
Even when we had a lot of the ball, like I was saying, we were a long way from Leyton Orient's net, right? Like we had the majority of possession in this game, but we had it in our own half. And then because they pushed up on our midfielders, Wing couldn't really supply any decent long balls, and Reading kind of fell to pieces.
And there's no answer to that, so they're pushing again. Right, you have the ball, but you can have it. Half the pitch away from where you need to be. Fine, not a problem. Good teams do that, right? So when you talk about being out-coached, that's probably a fair point, because he said to them, push them right high up the pitch, let them have the ball in their own half. They won't be able to go anywhere if you block off their creative avenues.
So we would try to get up to the winger, right? And Chirwa probably... Yeah. No, it was poor. Definitely. They push up and we try and go long out to the wings, but you're asking Chirwa to win a ball against a wing back and an outside centre back, and he managed it twice in this game, and two of our most dangerous moments were from when he was pushing forward. But you can't do that forever, obviously. So outcoached, I think, is the right word, unfortunately.
But it's a good point. And I don't think the fan base generally will settle down until there is. Do I use the word calm? Consistency? I don't know. There just needs to be something where it's like, this is what the aim is, and this is what we're trying to do here, and there needs to be buy-in. And I'm on the fence about Liam as a coach, but I don't think the fan base overall have brought into what he's doing. And I might be wrong, but I've not heard his name sung once. Now, with Noel Hunt, obviously he was ex-player, but within probably the first game, maybe even first couple of games, regardless of results, his name was being sung on repeat I don't see that with Liam.
I think with Noah Hunt, it's like easy to say like the identity of the team now is that they are trying to live up to the Reading of old and the Reading way and the Reading spirit and all of that kind of thing. And I think that previous to that, with Sellers, the very obvious identity of the team was youth and pressing and like some really exciting youth players to get behind. And there was stuff that you could be excited about. Like we had multiple times when we would talk to, national outlets in the last couple of years when we would say, yeah, it's all rubbish off the pitch, but by the way, the team are really fun on the pitch and they're good to get behind. Like there's good bunch of lads here. And I think that partially because the recruitment, like as we've talked about, kind of all goes back to that, has been poor. Or has brought in players who just haven't really been showing the effort maybe that we want as a fan base. There hasn't been that many new players that we can latch onto. I think that Marriott is the obvious exception. Fans have obviously latched onto him, and there's that Marriott Again song that the away fans have been singing, which has been great. But yeah, there just isn't a whole lot to get behind in this team right now. I think that other than we at TT Towers, apart from yourself, like Daniel Chirwa, and the away fans like Jack.
I don't dislike him. That's slander. I don't.
Yeah, it is slander
at all.
Yeah.
I keep going back to that word consistency. Do I see consistency? I don't think he's as good as you think he is the only way I can answer that statement, right? And come back at you, because I just don't see the impact.
I actually think you might be right that he's not as good as I necessarily think he is, but I think that what I'm kind of discovering during this mailbag is that I think that he's that good because he's one of the few players who I'm excited about that I can get behind in the way that I could get behind like Harvey Nibbs last year, because he shows me just like effort that I like, or like he does the kinds of things every 2 or 3 times a game guaranteed that you actually pay your money for. Like he cuts inside a guy and goes past him or whatever. Like that's fun to watch, and so it's like easy for me to get behind. And I think I know like Bobbins, for instance, has a real issue with Dorset, and I can understand that completely because if you're if you're watching Dorset and you're thinking like you've seen fullbacks before who can like go up and down or do something going forward or have some sort of aggressive pass.
I really want him to succeed.
Yeah.
I really, really want Dorset to succeed. I really want... I don't think it'll happen. I think, unfortunately, the fan base now, particularly on Saturday, have now kind of made up their minds on him. But there are so many players in that team that, like you said, that people are indifferent to.
Yeah.
Like, Jack Marriott, obviously. Charlie Savage is quite popular. Lewis Wing generally is quite popular. Pereira is quite popular. But beyond that, there isn't really any real oomph behind some of these players. I don't know. I might be wrong, but do you kind of get what I'm saying?
There's no Yaku Mate in the locker room. There's no Amadou
exactly.
in the locker room right now. Like, there's no guy who's just like posting mad.
Like Mbenge. Think about Mbenge, right? Most of where people came from was his personality. His personality made his play. His play became better. Like once we saw the personality out of him, he started to really improve and got that confidence and that buy-in from the team.
Well, but on top of that, Ben, every single time we spoke to someone from the club and we said, what's Amadou Mbenge like? The first thing they would do before they said anything was like a big smile would come on their face, like immediately.
Exactly right.
They would be like, oh yeah, Amadou's funny. Like it's immediately like, he's just got this guy around in the club who's got this like good vibe and stuff. And I do think we're kind of missing a person like that in the club at the moment. But just to finish up that point on Dorset, my point was just kind of like, if you've watched fullbacks your whole life who have been good at bombing down the wing and getting up and down and like supporting their winger and like overlapping, but then also being pretty decent defensively, like I can see Dorset being really frustrating to watch because he's being ground into this modern football elbow bag. And I think that he actually is pretty... I think Dorset is a perfectly good backup centre-back for this league. I think he's fine. But I wouldn't have him as like a starting centre-back in a team that's going to win promotion, especially not in a back two. Like, never in a back two. Maybe in a back three. Like, I think if he, for instance, leaves the club at the end of the year and he shows up playing for Orient in this back three that they had set up during this game, I think he'd do all right. I don't think he'd do that bad at all, to be honest, because like a lot of what they were being tasked with in this game was winning the ball off the wingers. Dorset can do that. quite consistently. But it's when he's asked to defend for a long time and concentrate, while they're being attacked like in sequence over and over again, and the opposition recycle and they try and cross. I don't think the main issues came down his side of the pitch, but when he was asked to concentrate or to deal with aerial balls into the box, I just think he's just a bit lacking. So definitely can't play as a centre back start as a centre back in League One in a back four. Maybe in a back three, I could kind of see it working, but I still think he's fine as he's a fine backup centre back. He's just being asked to play a lot of centre back, and left back for a team that we think should be doing better. So I think that's kind of tarnishing his reputation among Reading fans a bit.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're just two guys with opinions. So what we say, you might be, driving your car to work. You might be sat having a ham sandwich at home on your lunch break at work if you work from home, and you might go, "These two are idiots."
Yeah.
But we're here to give opinions, and this is our opinion at the moment.
I thought you were going to say, but we don't disagree with you. We are idiots.
Yeah, we are. Do you see? I've completely lost my spatial awareness and knocked over my microphone. Did you see that?
I did spot that, and I'm looking forward to editing that later.
Big smash.
Yeah, exactly.
Should we talk about Barnsley?
Well, I've got one. Let's talk about Barnsley, but I've got one more, and it's an email, and we love an email, and I don't want to. We won't stay here too long. Sorry, Mark, because we've already been a little bit negative during this section. But he titles his email "Reading Need Ted Lasso." This is from Mark Killick. So thank you, Mark. But he says, I listened to episode 446, and while it was definitely an uplifting listen, I'm struggling to share the same optimism after being at the home games over the festive period. On paper, 5 games unbeaten looks great, but the eye test tells a different story. Did you send this email? Are you Mark Killick? I'm pretty sure.
No, because every time I try and say something, are you being negative? Rah.
Yeah, I do. To me and my mates, this is Mark now. To me and my mates, it feels like the same old story we saw under Noel Hunt. Richardson's coaching staff seems to have us stuck in a hoof and hope style, constantly bypassing the midfield and gifting possession back to the opposition, even when we're leading. There's no sense of security. It feels like a collapse is always just minutes away. He says the Leyton Orient game was the breaking point for him. They have one of the worst defensive records in the league and a patched-together squad, yet they dominated us. Why didn't Yiadom pull the trigger when he had the chance? I think, we said we didn't think Yiadom was great in this game, and Dorset's performance really highlighted our defensive fragility too. These are professionals, yet we don't look like a cohesive team. And then the last thing he says...
Right. We don't look like a cohesive team.
And I think, Mark, we kind of agree with some of this. I think that the long ball stuff is they've done about they're hitting long balls at about the same rate as a lot of the average in this league, so they're kind of not hitting as many as some like hoof and hope teams, but they certainly haven't taken all of the Noel Hunt style out of it in that regard. But the question he asked at the end is, where does Kelvin Abrafa fit into this system? He doesn't track back, he isn't clinical, he loses the ball too quickly. Is it a fitness issue, a lack of leaders in the dressing room? Do we need stronger characters, or is it a fundamental tactical shift? I guess there's a lot of questions there, but do you think Abrafa... I mean, I feel like Abrafa's pretty far from the team now with Yiadom, even with Yiadom.
Yeah, and I think that in itself is pretty damning, given Abrafa's age. I don't see the negativity that some of the fan base have towards Abrafa. So there have been games I've watched him and I've gone, this guy's pretty good. But again, he's another one of those players that I'm just like, whatever, I don't think he is as bad as some of the fan base make out. But for me, like, if I've got this youth and this athleticism that isn't translated into consistently good performances, and I've got a vet who's really struggled with injuries over the last couple of seasons in front of me, I'm asking to get out of there on loan or anything just to get me away from the club for a bit, because he's not going to be fancied at all this season now. But Liam's obviously gone.
Even if Yiadom gets injured, which is, I feel, quite likely.
Yeah,
Or
I don't think he's going to look it.
Well, see, here's the thing. So, like I said, Yiadom is now 5 yellow cards from 6 starts. So is that now the suspension, or has he maybe got like 1 or 2 more?
I think he's got one more.
He's got one
But
more, but like he'll
if
be
I'm Liam
suspended.
Richardson,
Right?
I'm going,
Go
Matt
ahead,
Ritchie, can you play right back, please?
Okay, fair enough. I mean, that's the and well, I guess let's end the mailbag there because that just ties around to the main theme of today's, which is we need fullbacks, and I can be hesitant to say that let's go fix all of the issues on the field with players. Let's go fix the issues on the field in the transfer market. But I think that at this point it's very, very clear that we need help at fullback. Ash Karama was on the bench again this weekend, I think. So,
and he's not, like we said on the pod, like he is not going to want to play the youth players whilst we are still mathematically in contention for the playoffs.
Yeah,
he's just not going to want to take that risk. And whilst I think, well, certainly as a fan, I'd much rather see some of those under 18s, under 21s coming through and really go, yeah, go on, like let's just give it some and get really behind him. He's not going to want to do that because he knows that they don't have the experience. So
I wouldn't be surprised if, to avoid having to do that, at some point in the back half of the, in the last months of the season, we see a pretty permanent switch to sort of a 3-5-2. I think when Randall Williams comes back, that will give us another wide option, and he's a player who can play wing back if he has to. I think that there's a good chance I could see of Liam moving to some sort of back three with, I don't know, like Paudie, and maybe if Des Williams gets fit again, and maybe Finley Burns. But you could also play Dorset, you could also play Yiadom in that back three, and then you can play Randall Williams, in that sort of right wing back position, maybe play Chiawar on the other side, and again, I'm kind of like just spitballing, and one of the only times we've seen that happen or something similar to that happen was the Bradford game away, where we were obviously rubbish. But I wouldn't be surprised if, like you say, to avoid that, having to go to some of these younger players, Liam does move to some sort of back three if the fullback situation isn't decisively solved, even if on loan, just for the next 4 months, basically.
Yeah, I don't know. I still don't really know where this team will end up.
Yeah.
I'm
you
not.
like a horse.
Huh?
You sounded like a horse then. You made like a noise. So that's what it's driving you into the barnyard. That's what this team is doing. That's not an expression.
No, exactly. I don't know where this team will end up. I really don't.
It's difficult from week to week.
Yeah, we need to bounce back on Saturday, really, against Barnsley, and we're going to talk about that now in the final part of episode 447.
Yep. You wait here for it. Well, you start the next section, but also I'm going to go get something, so I'm going to be away from my camera for a second. But you can carry on, but stay there. All right. Well, you can start the section.
Welcome back to episode 447 of the Tilehurst podcast. Final part of this morning, if you're listening to us on Tuesday, pod preview of Barnsley, who come to town in 15th place, 32 points, over 22 games. They played 3 less than we have. So obviously had a few cancellations there. 17th in the form table over the last 6 games. For context, we are 5th. So it's a really good opportunity to get 3 points on the board.
All right, I'm back.
Their away form. So can you not interrupt when I'm giving?
Sorry, go ahead. You're doing an excellent preview.
Their overall away results, if you like, tricky. 3 wins, 4 draws, 4 losses. So you can kind of see why they're in 15th. It's a really, really good opportunity, given that to get back to winning ways, really. Ross, it's Louisiana Day as well.
It is.
And I've got some opinions on that, which we'll come back to. But
okay.
Let's talk a little bit around the game on Saturday.
Yeah. So if you really want to enjoy Louisiana Day, you're going to need some of this slap your mama Louisiana Cajun seasoning, which YouTube viewers can see now, which I purchased for the. Well, actually, I purchased because I like Cajun on my roast chicken. But this is for Louisiana Day because I knew Ben was very excited about it, so I wanted to make sure that there was a prop for this episode. But yeah, looking forward to beating Barnsley on Louisiana Day and then enjoying some jambalaya and jazz music. Did it. Also, crocodiles and Mardi Gras.
Do you want to talk about changes you might make?
Yes, we're going to put in the new fullback that we're going to purchase this week, and he's going to come in for Dorset right away. No,
actually, in all seriousness, do you see any transfers coming in before the game? And again, probably a ridiculous question. Do you see them coming straight into the team?
I think they could if they are, like we said, but this is just the fullback episode. Which it feels like it has been now every January, every single January episode for the last 3 years has just been the fullback episode. Yes, if they bring a fullback in, I could see them going straight into the lineup, and also I wouldn't be surprised if the club did make a signing before the next game, because I think it's pretty widely reported at this point that we tried to sign a centre back. What's his name? Sorry, the guy from
Santos.
Ricardo Santos. We tried to sign from Swansea, and unfortunately he failed his medical. So I hope he's okay. That was my main thought when that happened. But in any case,
it was like, for God's sake, what are we doing? That's what.
Well, no, actually, do you know what? I wasn't. I guess. Well, I was a little bit more worried about it when I saw Stickland's name on the bench again this weekend. But I wasn't that worried about not getting a centre back because I'm just not that. I don't think that's the biggest issue in the team right now. And again, like, it's recruitment.
No, it's not.
Go after the right person.
I'm not sold on Paudie, and I've been really impressed with Williams. I really like Williams as a player, and I think again it goes in fits and starts, because when we do well, it's like, oh, we don't need him, and a lot of people are like, wow, Des who? In fact, no one says Des except us, but do you know what I mean? Like, they just kind of dismiss him, but. I just don't think that Paudie is the player that we hoped he was going to be, and I don't think he's had a good season really. I'm not against Barnes. I think he's been pretty consistent, but Saturday was a really bad day at the office overall, and Paudie was obviously part of that. So I hope he can turn it around and get back to some consistent form. But I just feel if you're playing the numbers game, we just need a little bit of a boost in at centre back just in case.
Quick question then on Paudie, because I think he could have been better. I don't think he's been awful, and I think there have been some games where he's been very good and very useful. I think there's one thing he does very, very well. Do you, I guess, like, you go on like the stat sites which have these silly little ratings, and oftentimes these ratings are just nonsense because, like, as soon as you get any kind of goal involvement, you look incredible. Do you, I guess, understand why Paudie O'Connor is the highest rated Reading centre back on most of those sites this season?
I guess he wins a few duels.
He that's his thing, I think, is that you just
he does put the tackles in, and most of the time he's successful, isn't he? Ironically, he wasn't good for the second goal because he got beaten in the air, but normally, he's kind of elbows out, head forward and clear the ball. But my issue really is pace. You've seen a lot more forwards that want to play on the deck now in League One, and there's so many times where he's been, burned around the outside, where it's just too easy to kind of go past him. And that pace element, we never seem to get it right. We either have ball playing players that are accomplished with the ball at their feet and are able to move the ball in transitions, or we have blockers, Sunday League blockers, or we have players that are quick but don't do either of them in those positions. It would be great if we could just have an all-round centre-back that could do all of those, but then I guess they wouldn't be playing in League One.
My mate Tyler Binden could do that. That's
but he's not with us anymore, is he?
He was pretty exceptional.
I mean, but that's the problem. Binden was the complete package for us.
So you're kind of bang on, like, he wins duels and stuff. Basically, like, if we can force the other team into if we can force the other team into kicking the ball long over and over again down the center of the field, Paudie O'Connor becomes incredibly valuable, and he becomes one of the most useful players in the game because he's just impossible to win against in the air for the most part, unless he mucks up, which he did for Don Ballard's second goal, and he mistimed his jump, and obviously, ended up that poorly. I don't think Liam would have chosen Paudie O'Connor if he was here in the summer. And I think it's really
I would agree with that.
frustrating because I think that Paudie O'Connor was a decent signing in terms of like if you had a manager who was like, yep, I want him, that's what we're going to do. We're going to force the other team into going high down the middle against us, and he's going to win everything. Then again, recruitment matched up with the long-term vision. Then I think that it's a case of like, yeah, that could work out nicely. But I think that Liam's way of allowing teams to go at us on the wings kind of means that Paudie is just dealing with situations with more balls around the floor in front of him and stuff like that. That was poorly explained, but anyway, I think I'm just kind of growing suspicion that Paudie O'Connor is a good centre back if you are going to play to his strengths, but he's not necessarily the centre back that Liam Richardson would have brought in if he was the guy there for Reading in the summer. And now we've gone way off from Barnsley.
And at the time, I think he raised quite a few eyebrows in a positive way. Because it's like, we're going after a divisional rival in terms of taking other teams' players for money. That's a new thing for Reading Football Club in recent times. So it was a real coup on paper, but I just don't think it's transpired, and I don't know if that's because he's not particularly good or because the team generally has suffered this season with instability in the dugout. The methodology they're trying to employ on the pitch. So you don't know, but I am worried about his pace, and I am worried about how easily particularly nimble strikers, like if you put Jack Marriott up against Paudie, there's only one player winning the ball every time. And it's going to be Jack Marriott because he's nimble.
The thing I would say is that what will happen is Paudie would win the ball 8 out of 10 times, but he would muck up so poorly on the other 2 times that Jack Marriott would score, and 2 times in a game is all you need for game over, basically. Lincoln City are second, and Lincoln City are a team that are making smart recruitment decisions at the moment. It's part of how they're pushing their way out the division, and so clearly Lincoln City said, we can sell our captain. This is the time to do it. And maybe that was because they thought that this is the last time they could get value for him, so they decided, or maybe Reading outbid him. I can't remember if it was I think maybe it was an end of his contract thing. But in any case, Lincoln City's recruitment team decided to let Paudie go, and they're in second place now. So clearly they successfully calculated that his exclusion from their team wouldn't cause them too many issues. I think it's just worth noting. I still think, though, again, I do still think that if you can force the opposition to play up through the middle of the park, Paudie O'Connor is one of the best centre-backs in the league for winning the ball in the air. He looks like a pain in the neck to play against. I've spoken about how there are big forwards who I've seen play against Paudie and just get thrown around like a rag doll. And that's fun. It's fun to watch, but it's not fun to watch when, Des or Finley's coming across to cover him because he's stepped forward again and the ball's gone over his head. I don't know how the preview became a Paudie O'Connor chat, but whatever.
Well, what we can do is talk about Louisiana Day, and I'm a little bit disappointed at present. Get your rub out of my face.
Slap your mama. I literally bought this just to show you. I normally buy a different Cajun sauce. Anyway.
I feel that there is, if nothing changes, I feel there's a massive opportunity missed because they're saying, the club is saying it's Louisiana Day, get your tickets, blah, 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 blah. And all that is available at the moment is a couple of American cars from Select Car Leasing who, to be honest, were at the stadium a lot last season, and that was never mentioned as part of the match day entertainment package, and stuff in hospitality. And I just think that is a real oversight on where the fan base is, and there are a lot of things they could have done that could have made it an American day. that would have really generated a bit more fun and a bit more interest at a time of year when we desperately need that anyway, given that it's, the middle of the worst month in the world. But it just seems to be that they're targeting all of this stuff at a very specific group of people. And I think that's really sad, because that's not what Reading Football Club is about. It's never been that. Even in the Premier League, community was at the absolute heart of that football club. So for me, and people say, oh, you're being a bit dramatic, it's just a theme day, but there isn't really a theme for people that are just going to the game. There's nothing.
I think just to give you like a little bit of back, because I think there will be some people saying F off, Ben, or whatever on that. Just to back up what you're saying, I went and decided to look at what's on at Louisiana Day as like on the actual Reading Football Club
go on.
website. And the first two things, to be fair to you, Ben, the first two things are taste the best flavors of Louisiana in hospitality. And then the second thing is wait, watch the action from the chairman's box. That's number two. And
if you're lucky enough to win a ticket.
Yeah. And then it's a signing session. And then it's like enhanced fun zone. And that, let's be fair to them, like that seems like there's going to be extra stuff outside. But do they already have the fun zone every week? Like, I don't know what it's been like.
Well, I mean, enhanced would mean they've got more stuff. And look, the last game they did that for.
Get crocodiles in there. If you can get reindeer for Christmas, you can get a crocodile for Louisiana Day with a little hat on it and a Mardi Gras bead. That's what I want.
Crocodiles of the World is only down in Oxfordshire.
Go get them. Yeah, Thames Valley.
There could have been. I don't know. There just feels like a missed opportunity with it. And when I saw that published, before Christmas, I was like, that'll be wicked. That'll be well good. And I just feel like it's just a game against Barnsley, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, that's the thing with all of these theme days. Theme days are a big thing over here, especially in like minor league baseball, but they happen all the way up to the pros.
Yeah, but it's for everyone, though, isn't it? When they do that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, but it's for everyone. It's a very like low key kind of thing. Like I went to last year, the best theme night I went to. Okay, in Maine, we have baked beans as well, but they are very, very different from actual good baked beans that you can get in the UK. And they have something called a bean supper, right? Which is where you eat beans with like these red hot dogs, and they have like hard outer casings, so when you bite into them, they snap. They're disgusting. Anyway, the theme night I went to this year in Portland was the Maine Bean Suppers night, whereby all night you remember like Gunge from like Get Your Own Back or something like that? They basically did a bunch of Gunge games all over the field with beans throughout the night. Field covered in beans. Players are playing on it, and like all this is going on. You can have fun with it though, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're gonna do this stuff, make it silly and like make it a part of the the fan experience. And obviously, like, in baseball, there's like tons of stoppages in play, so like there's tons of time to fill that you can do things like that. But like, is there a halftime entertainment thing or anything like that going on that's Louisiana themed?
Well, not my lord. I mean, not that I would be told. Of course, why would I be? But there isn't that driver there, and I think it could have been a really like, that's pretty cool actually. Like, that was quite fun to be there. Yeah. And at the moment, it doesn't feel like that. It just feels like, well, we want to celebrate where we're from. I love that, by the way. I think that's absolutely fantastic. And, we should do that more often with where players are from. Years ago, and it's awful because you never do it now, but there was like a ginger day in celebration of Steve Sidwell and Dave Kitson. It was. Honestly, there was. And Dave Kitson threw his toys out of the pram and said, I don't want any part of it. It's disgusting.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
But Steve Sidwell was like, bring it on. Love it. Right? So,
yeah.
Things like that. The fans look back on them and go, that was a laugh, that was. Portugal Day. How good was Portugal Day when Jose Gomez was there?
Genuinely...
It was really organic and really good to be part of. But, it just feels like we're going to do it, but we're only going to target a really small niche of fans. And most people like me are only going because they want to see us beat Barnsley and get back up the table. But there just feels like a missed opportunity. And, when we had the micro pigs, it was fun. The reindeers was cool, like all those little bits. But this one, it just doesn't feel, unless they're going to announce stuff, people will be listening to this on Friday going, what's he talking about? They've actually got like an alligator show or something.
Yeah, they've got a talking alligator.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or they've I don't know. Something.
They've brought the actual Mississippi River and they've put it in Berkshire, and that's what you've got for Louisiana Day.
Popeyes is down the road.
Yeah,
just get a car.
Last thing I'll say on this, if I could have any theme day, what I want is they call us the Royals Day, where everyone dresses like Lady Sassima or one of the people in the They Call Us the Royals video.
That would be a recipe for disaster.
And they only play that song every single time. Like a song comes on, like song ends, fade it all the way down, loop the next time.
That would be
I want some poor fans to have to come, some poor away fans to have to come to the stadium and hear They Call Us the Royals. Yeah. So anyway, that's my choice of theme day. If I could do any theme day, They Call Us the Royals Day.
Stupid.
Yeah.
But look, you might be listening to this, later on in the week and go, well, they've done all that now, so shut up. But at this point when we're recording it, I just feel there's a missed opportunity there. I really do. But we'll see. We'll see. I just want them to win. I want the club to be onwards and upwards. I want it to start to feel a bit more, whole and together and polished. And it doesn't feel like that at the moment. And I can't really put my finger on why, but it just doesn't feel like that. So we'll see. We'll keep going as we always do. I don't know what this preview has become, but you've got it anyway. So enjoy that one. Episode 447. That's a wrap.
Thank you.
We're good to go. You're good to go to carry on with your week.
Slap your mama and.
You're gonna put that on something.
I will actually I'll put this on Bluesky later this week. But yeah, I like to make Cajun roast chicken. So if you're going to make something Louisiana themed this week and you don't want to go too far out of the way or too far out of your normal, if you like roasting chickens, which come on now, everyone likes roasting chickens, try it with like Cajun rub all over it rather than just like your regular poultry rub for once. You'll thank me, I promise. It's really good.
Okay. Would you serve that with collard greens or not?
Ooh, yeah, and grits. I actually really like grits, so yeah, I probably would. Southern cooking is great. Waffles and fried chicken in the morning. Oof, good stuff.
It's a choice. Listen, have a good week, won't you?
I will do. You too.
Let's hope for it. We should get a win, shouldn't we? We should be all right.
We'll be all right on Louisiana Day. Nothing can go wrong on Louisiana Day down in the bayou.
There are no losers on Louisiana Day.
Yeah, apart from the talking crocodile.
Yeah.
That's animal abuse.
Yeah. I feel like I should take an inflatable crocodile and just lob him.
Do it, yeah. Bring one. No, just like, yeah. And with a real crocodile inside it. All right, we got to go because I can't stop thinking about crocodiles now.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, thanks everyone for listening as always. Check us out on YouTube. Podlight was up on Friday, so enjoy that. This will be out on YouTube as well. Give us a subscribe, like, whatever you do on YouTube. Have a really good week. Thanks, Ross, as always.
Slam that bell, YouTube listeners.
Slam the bell. And we'll see you next time on the Tilehurst podcast. Come on, you ones.